Hello, one and all. Welcome to another episode of MMA Vision Analysis. This one, I'm here to talk about the idea of Jon Jones versus Francis Ngannou UFC PFL cross-promotion fight. But before getting started, make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Click that notification to get all of this that is new from this channel, your channel, the one and only MMA Vision Analysis. Jon Jones, Francis Ngannou are still active fighters, believe it or not. I'm not trying to be funny here, but these two have been more inactive than they have been active for the best part of, let's say, the last 3 years. That's definitely been more the case for Jon Jones than Francis Ngannou. Ngannou has had some fights, even though his fights were him venturing out of the world of mixed martial arts and specifically to the world of boxing, where he had two very interesting fights. First against a guy in the name of Tyson Fury. The performance of Francis Ngannou against Tyson Fury was interesting and much better than many boxing fans anticipated. Personal opinion, first person to ever sit down Tyson Fury. I believed that the night of fight against Tyson Fury for Francis Ngannou, Francis was robbed. Then he go on to face a guy in the name of Anthony Joshua. That was a much shorter story to tell. That fight did not last long. Matter of fact, Francis Ngannou looked terrible against a world-class boxer. Not to say that Tyson Fury was not a world-class boxer, but I'm not sure if it's due to perfect game plan from Anthony Joshua or underestimating from Francis Ngannou's side and overestimating his own powers to put Joshua away. But for certain, Ngannou looked terrible against Anthony Joshua. In the UFC days, Francis Ngannou was almost untouchable. He was defeated by a guy in the name of Stipe Miocic. Obviously, both of those guys faced each other multiple times. Both of them holders of or previous champions of the heavyweight division in UFC. Now championed by a guy in the name of Jon Jones. Obviously, Johnny, top of that heavyweight division. Everybody in that heavyweight division wants to get their hands on Jon Jones, or at least top fighters in that heavyweight division at least. John's supposed to face off against Stipe Miocic sometime. Hopefully end of this year, perhaps the beginning of next year. I'm not sure if Stipe is even going to make that fight, in all honesty. There were talks of Tom Aspinall being replacement fighter for one of these two guys, if one of these two guys was to pull out. Also, it was actually talked about the fact that if Jon Jones was to pull out, it does not make sense for Miocic to face anybody else except for Johnny. So let's say the replacement fighter is only there for if Stipe does not make that fight, which I have a feeling that Stipe, well, let's just say the likelihood of making the fight against Jon Jones it's a very small likelihood. So we have Jon Jones, who expresses disinterest in fighting a guy in the name of Aspinall. In all honesty, there's no sure sign that Jon Jones is going to fight again. In all honesty, I could be wrong, of course, but this is turning to like a similar storyline as to the Conor McGregor one. So you hear news of the guy coming back, but there is no sure date for when Jon Jones to come back. I think Johnny is probably more likely to come back than Stipe Miocic. This fight is supposed to happen, but there are so many different other opportunities that Jon Jones can capitalize on. Obviously, the Miocic fight fight that was supposed to happen at this point, a couple years in the making, I want to say. Obviously, Tom Aspinall wants to get his hands on the current champion to unify that belt. And also, we have the potential of Alex Pereira and his camps, simply expressed interest in facing Jon Jones. And another super fight that could possibly happen is the one we're talking about here, the one where we can combine two organizations for the sake of one fight. Jon Jones versus Jon Jones versus Francis Ngannou. All of these fights sound fantastic, in all honesty. Is this one impossible? Of course, there's nothing that's impossible, especially taking into consideration what I believe the good relation between the UFC and the PFL. So, can this fight happen? Yes, and it would actually open the door for more fights down the line. I don't know if that's going to be the case for every guy that's going to want to fight. Let's say UFC guy want to fight a PFL guy. It's not going to happen all the time, vice versa. But for a fight like this, I think the UFC and the PFL can make an exception. Everything has to make sense in order for this fight to actually happen. Will this fight happen? Out of the 4 fights that I just mentioned, the Miocic fight, Tom Aspinall, Alex Pereira, and Francis Ngannou, UFC, PFL cross-promotion, I believe the more likely fight to happen is perhaps Tom Aspinall. I don't know why. I feel like this fight is the closest fight to happen just because I don't think Stipe is going to make that fight. I could be wrong, of course. The fight that I would truly be interested in is Jon Jones versus Alex Pereira. The fight that's least likely to happen, I really do believe, is the Stipe Miocic fight. Even though this is the fight that's supposed to happen before any other fight, according to all the sources, that is. Nothing's official. Even the return of Jon Jones itself has a lot of haze around it. Nobody really knows what's going on, in terms of Jon Jones heading into the near future. I know that there are a handful of fights that Jon can come back and perhaps get immediately. First and foremost, obviously, being the Stipe fight. That's the one that everybody's anticipating, or that's the one that has been talked about the longest for, the past 2 years or so. To the Francis Ngannou fight and everything between, from Aspinall to Pereira, which one is, I think, more likely to happen? I believe Aspinall fight. Which one would I be more interested in? Alex Pereira fight. Which one would I be least interested in? Stipe Miocic fight. And which one is the furthest away from reality? I would have to say it's between the Francis and Stipe Miocic fight. Let's go ahead and say Francis and Ngannou fights perhaps further away from reality just because it's 2 different organizations. And getting the 2 organizations to agree on everything is probably going to create a real task to where other fights will be easier to make. If you made it this far, I appreciate you for sticking around. Please let me know what you think in the comments and subscribe for more.